For more on this, let's get to our guest. We are very fortunate to have Fox News contributor and former Secretary of State and former CIA Director Mike Pompeo. Mr. Secretary, thank you for taking time. I want to go right to your thoughts on Abe.
Well, Griff, thanks for having me on today. The world's going to miss someone who thought about the world in a very realistic way. He didn't pretend it's as he wished it were. He was prepared to convince the Japanese people of the things that he knew, to build out relationships with the United States. I first met him back in 2015, so goodness, 7 years ago, when I was a member of Congress, and he spoke to a joint session of Congress, not something many leaders get to do, but it was a possibility, and he became the prime minister again because he understood the things that they needed to do. They had historically been a nation that hadn't armed itself. He knew the Chinese Communist Party was a real threat to the way of life of every Japanese citizen. He was prepared to work with the United States, with Australia, with India, and partners in the region to deliver really good outcomes for his own people. From a geostrategic standpoint, the world will absolutely miss former Prime Minister Abe.
Mr. Secretary, you obviously met him on many occasions. Was there a moment that stands out?
You know, we worked very closely as we were preparing for our summits with Chairman Kim in North Korea. When Chairman Kim was firing missiles, he was with us. When we were trying to convince the South Koreans of the right path forward, he was strong. He and I would joke about Japanese beef and Kansas beef. I'm from Kansas. Whose beef was better? But he was always most serious about the things he knew needed to be done, and he knew the most reliable economic partner, the most reliable diplomatic partner, and he never shied away from it. Anything he promised us, Griff, anything he told us he would do, he delivered each and every time. And to say that about a world leader who was in as big and important nation as Japan is really quite something.
And you raised such an interesting point, Mr. Secretary, because Abe really was respected in every right of competing not just with other Asian allies, as you mentioned there, but also even with European or American allies, but yet with Japan's interest first and foremost.
Always. Our expectation that every leader would put their country and its citizens first. He certainly did that for his people. His first effort, Abenomics, was to try and deliver good economic outcomes after 15, 20 years of bad economies inside of Japan. So that was his first mission set. His second one was to get prosperity alongside security, and he worked with us so closely for so many years to do that. The good news is, Griff, he was also a great leader. He has built up inside of his political party, inside of Japan, I think what will be a next generation of great leaders there as well. So I'm confident that the relationship between the United States and Japan, our economic interest, their economic interest, our security interests and theirs will be well served in the future as well. We will miss him, but his legacy will live on.
And just quickly, what was your reaction, Mr. Secretary? I mean, obviously, Japan has been noted many times as very, very few gun-related deaths, and there's going to be a deep dive into the security procedures behind this. But what was your reaction when you saw what had happened?
Yeah, my heart was broken. I hadn't seen Prime Minister Abe for a number of months. I was hoping to see him again in not too distant future. He was a friend as well. He was always very kind to me and to my wife. We'll miss him. To see him assassinated in this way reminds us all that we have to do the things we can while we are here, and that security responsibilities to protect political leaders, whether they are Supreme Court justices here in the United States or elsewise, is a paramount duty of each and every government.
Well said, Mr. Secretary. Let me turn, before I run out of time with you, let me turn to an upcoming trip, President Biden heading to Saudi Arabia. Your thoughts on that and perhaps your hopes for what might be the takeaway?
Well, I'm glad he's going, Griff. I wish he'd done the right thing here at home, right? I wish he'd gone to Midland, Texas, or Kansas, or North Dakota to the Bakken Shale, or to Pennsylvania, where we can produce all the energy America needs. I wish he'd allow us to do that. That should be the first trip that any president should take when you're thinking about American energy security. But I'm glad he's going. I hope that they'll have a good, productive conversation. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is an important security partner, and as we can see, an important partner for energy, not only for us, but for the Europeans and the Asians as well. I hope he'll get good outcome. I hope they'll have a good relationship, and I hope they will build on what we did with the Abraham Accords in the Middle East in the years ahead.
Well, critics of President Biden say that he is going with an open hand on bended knee to try and help with these gas prices. Is that how you view it, and can that help?
Yeah, there's no doubt. He's put America and Europe in a very difficult place. The Europeans did it to themselves as well. We warned them too, Griff. We told them if you depend on Russian energy and you close your nuclear power plants and you go all Greta Thunberg on us, right? You put climate change at the top of your agenda without a rational solution to provide affordable energy for your people. This is exactly the place you find yourself. So I hope that President Biden can find a way to get us back to American energy dominance in the way that we had for 4 years.
And just in the last 30 seconds or so we have, Mr. Secretary, I have to ask you, former President Trump hinting again, perhaps closer at announcing a 2024 run. And in all of those wire copy reports, hopefuls like Mike Pompeo included. Any more thought as to whether you will declare for president in 2024?
Griff, we'll all sort this out come the end of the year, beginning of next. In the meantime, we're going to go crush it here in November, have a really good election where the American people, the majority of Americans who understand the core values of our nation, will have a wonderful outcome in November, and they'll all get sworn in January. Then we'll look to 24, Griff.
Does that mean after the midterms we could look at a definitive decision by Mike Pompeo?
Oh, yeah, there'll come a day, and it'll be after the midterms. There's no doubt about that.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo sharing his thoughts on Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and many other things. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on today.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.